Alright, hello again. This is the part 2 of 1960s Batmobile from the comic book version I've been working on. Spent the last couple of days airbrushing all the colors that I need. There's probably about 4 or 5 different colors that I used, and these are of course all Tamiya brand paints, the acrylic. And basically I started, well, the first day I actually painted all the parts and let them dry overnight, let them cure for a little bit, and then the next day I actually started putting some parts together. So basically I started with the engine first and got that all assembled, and each part of the engine itself was airbrushed, and also, like the engine block was I airbrushed in a red kind of to me a red color block, and then the transmission itself was kind of like a titanium silver. That's what I had on hand basically, and other little parts there too. Put the chrome in for the manifold covers and stuff like that. Basically, kind of got a lesson as far as putting parts together for a 125 scale model car. As you can see, the exhaust pipes, muffler for front and rear, also is in titanium silver. As far as the instructions are concerned, they wanted you to start with that first, then we put the chassis body on and kind of build yourself up from there onto the main floorboard part of it. There were a couple of issues putting this together as I first started out, namely, get my little screwdriver here, I guess the rear axle part, it's made out of plastic as far as compared to the Batmobile snap kit, which had steel rods. So it's not very strong or supportive, especially when I tried later on in the build to put these tires on. Of course, when I put any kind of pressure on there, it bent the rear axle all over the place, and I actually ended up popping a couple of the springs because I was trying to be careful at the same time, but it is what it is, and of course I had to fix it. Another little issue I had is the shock absorbers. After I put all these, the exhaust pipes in, and the axle and the chassis itself, they wanted you to try to assemble the shock absorbers onto the axle and then to the actual chassis itself, but I had to kind of maneuver the shock absorbers up and under the mufflers, and there's a little notch that's supposed to rest in too. Of course I tried it with some tweezers, and pressure with the tweezers there, it kept popping out of the tweezers, so I end up basically gluing both of the pins here, and then kind of hand setting it in there, and I actually took a toothpick and kind of pushed it in, and of course then apply a little pressure with the toothpick and let it sit there for a little bit. So that's how I kind of maneuvered in this little tight corner right here for that. Other than that, the rest of the build was doing pretty well with it. Let me take this back over here a little bit. Of course, like I said, I'm not a car man, and the way these instructions are, it kind of gives you a exploded picture view of just the parts, but it doesn't really say, hey, part 1 goes here, part 2 goes there. I have to kind of figure out where the parts were going to line up with the chassis, with all the different holes and pins and stuff like that. So I basically dry fitted everything in first to make sure that's where it actually went. So I got a little lesson as far as building the chassis under part, and a little more experience now with it, since this is my first attempt at building a 125 scale car. It's been about 10-20 years. So anyways, so I got, like I said, I got a little history on that. Moving on, let me flip this back over here. As you can see here, the wheels themselves are kind of wobbly. They don't want you to glue it in there, but it is what it is. I ended up keeping the chrome bat spinners. I didn't want, pertaining to the 1960s version of the cartoon or the comic book version. So we're just going to keep them as a chrome, kind of give it a little bit of that extra little touch to it. So right now I pretty much got everything sitting for right now. I'm going to let this kind of sit overnight and let it cure with the glue and everything. Another issue I had was these little, I guess, tailpipes. They're chrome, and they actually have a little hole in it, like there's supposed to be a pin coming at the end of the exhaust pipe there. But as you can see, it's flat. I tried just gluing it flat-wise, and of course, anytime you want to just slightly hit it, it's no support. So I may have drilled a little hole here in the middle of the exhaust pipes on both ends there, maybe sticking a toothpick in there or something to get a little bit extra support, and then re-glue it so it stays in place, and we won't have that issue again anymore. So that's that. As far as working on a little bit of the interior, I got the seats all kind of masked off, and they're calling for like a steel or silver steel type of floor. So of course, once again, I took my airbrush, and what I had for my color selection, my Tamiya brand, was a titanium silver. So I just did a controlled airbrush on the floor. It already had the grid, kind of the grid pattern in there, so that gave it a little nice little touch there too. During my airbrushing the one day, I noticed that I didn't have any semi-gloss paint, so of course I had to go down to the local hobby place and pick up an X1 Tamiya gloss black so that I could actually paint the dashboard. They were calling for that as being also a gloss black paint. So I think that kind of came out really nice. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's nice and smooth. And of course, I let it set there overnight, let it cure. So we're kind of good with that. So like I say, basically that's kind of like where we're at right now, build-wise. I'm going to save the, another thing I want to kind of say too is, they're telling you to put, the firewall in there, and, the side wall panels for the engine in there, and then they tell you to put the engine in place. I had a heck of a time. It took me over an hour because, let me pick this up here for you. This little hole represents the back end of the transmission area, and of course there's a little pin on the engine mounting bracket where the bottom, where like let me turn it over, kind of where the oil pan, transmission pan goes there. But when I took it in there, it was a real tight fit, and the holes didn't line up. I get one hole lined up, the other one is off by 1/8 of an inch. So I had to keep playing around with it, and of course dealing with that and all the pressure trying to get this engine in just right there. Of course, I had a couple of loose, I loosened up the firewall, stuff like that. So I had to kind of basically walk away a couple times and kind of regroup my thoughts and come back, and we got her done. Like I say, the next thing is the actual radiator core. I'm going to be sticking that in the front once that's done there, and also there's going to be like a couple radiator hoses going to the radiator itself, an upper and lower one that I have to kind of probably end up using my tweezers on that too as well. So like I said, this is where we're at, and as far as the body of the car and the hood and stuff like that, they still have I still have the primer on that. I'm going to wait and finish that up as a last resort, for painting the actual primary color. Another little tip that I kind of do just to see how the color would look is I take out these little plastic, our plastic styrene spoons, and I basically, primer it. Of course, I wash it down first, and I primer it, and then I put a coat of color, which I think would be matching our. And I get this box over here, matching the color of the body that's on the actual model itself. So I know it's not exact. I might darken it up a little bit, but I don't want to get too dark because of this black decal on there. I want to make sure that stands out. So I might just go with this color. And by the way, this is not a Tamiya brand. It's Krylon, Color Master. I'll kind of see how that goes. I had some failures and successes with it, certain Krylon paints. I'll see what I have on my Tamiya color. I may airbrush the whole body down since it's only 125 scale. So we'll see. But I figure that's a pretty good color right there. So that's probably what I'm going to go with. Alright, so like I said, this is just a quick little update of my progress for the last couple of days. Basically, like I said, just airbrushing all the colors that I could get colored, and then start slowly building my way from the chassis through the engine, and then probably pretty much on the next time part 3, I'll have the interior or bucket version of the interior of the Batmobile finished up, and with the telephone, bat phone, and other little things there, and so it's moving along, and we'll just kind of go from there. So anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time, and we'll have maybe a part 3 and finale, because there's not too much stuff left to do here on this particular build. So maybe we'll do a part 3 finale, finish to it. So without further ado, like I said again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day.